Hi, welcome to KXAN Plus. I'm your host, Esmeralda Zamora, and today we have our Nick's First Warning weather episode with our chief meteorologist, Nick Bannin. Nick, thanks for joining me. How you doing?
I'm just gonna slide on over
A
here.
little
How you doing,
out of
Esme?
place. I'm good.
You look a little shorter today than usual.
A little shorter than you for sure.
I'll just here. I've got this. There we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
We're equal heights.
It's
Today
this hair. It's in need of a cut. It's like 2 inches too long.
it adds 2 inches to your height for
Yeah.
sure. Today we're talking about when we're going to see that 90-degree weather day, and I was expecting to see it tomorrow, but apparently
No.
we're not.
No, we've actually been very close to 90s already this year. Could you believe it? The second day of January, we hit 88. That was the warmest temperature of the year so far, and it happened so early in the year. It would have been the earliest 90-degree day on record had we managed to be 2 degrees warmer, but we weren't. But with plenty of 80s here this week, you may be wondering, okay, now we've had our share of 80s. What about the 90s? So we thought it would be a good opportunity to dig into some of the numbers here, because on average, the first 90 is not anytime soon. On average, not until April 3rd. So that means that we still have roughly 6 weeks until we would have to think about even getting some 90s back into Central Texas. But that doesn't mean that we won't have it earlier than normal. There have been many instances of us getting 90s in February and March. And of course, we're well into February now.
Yeah, we're already towards the end of February, getting into March, and I'm ready to get in the pool, Nick. I'm ready for those 90-degree days.
So you may not have to wait too long for them if history repeats itself, which it often does here locally. This is the date of the first 90-degree day of the year for the last 5 years. And you could see, remember, April 3rd was the average first 90-degree day. That's a 30-year average, 1991 to 2020, and the average during those dates. But as you look over the last 5 years here, last year our first 90 was March 12th, so well earlier than normal. The year before that, 2024, we had a March 5th 90-degree day, about a month earlier than normal. And then in 2023, we had 90s before the end of February, back on February 22nd. So that was way earlier than normal. And then 2022 was later, but still earlier than normal. And not until 2021, on April 8th of that year, did we actually have 90s, the first 90 of the year, happening later than normal. 4 of the last 5 years have had 90s arriving earlier than normal.
My question is, once we reach that 90-degree day, let's say we reach it in April this year, after that day, is it going to continue to stay hot, or are we going to get some freezes here and there?
Yeah,
like
the
some
first,
coldness?
so I wouldn't say that we would likely get any freezes after the first 90. I'd have to dig into the information there, but we're already past the last average final freeze of the season. That was February 15th. And certainly the later we get into March, and especially April, freezes in April are oh so rare. But the first 90 doesn't mean that 90s are here for good. You can certainly get big cool downs,
Cold
60s,
fronts.
70s, yeah, cold fronts as well, even after the first 90-degree day. Of course, the earlier that 90 happens, the more likely it would be that you would have some chillier air to follow. The later that first 90, then the more likely that you would be dealing with more typical spring warmth. Anyway, I do want to show you what the earliest 90-degree days have ever been. So not just in the last 5 years, but since record keeping in the Austin area began in the late 1800s.
Up to the 50s. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and the data goes back to 1897, I think. But you can see here the earliest 90s have been more recent than that. January 30th, the only time we've had 90s in the month of January was back in 1971. And then all of the rest of the earliest 90s have been in February, at least on this list. February 10th, 1954. We're past that date already this year. February 15th, 2019. We're already past that. February 17th, that happened on a couple of different occasions. And then February 18th of 1986, we hit 90. So It's still unusual to get 90s in February, but it has happened. Wouldn't be the first time ever, that's for sure. But typically speaking, we're waiting into March and April for those first 90s.
So we're expecting 80 degrees tomorrow, but when do you think we'll see that first 90-degree day this year?
Based on some of the info we're seeing, I would put it probably closer to the middle of March. I think we're going to see more 80s as we wrap up February. I'm not seeing 90s, though, in February. I think our time will run out and our luck will run out as we get into March. March, the extended outlook looks pretty warm for next month, and that's a story for another day. But I would imagine it comes in March this year, especially given how dry the winter has been. The drier the soil is, the easier it is to heat up, the easier it is to get these earlier, hotter temperatures than if, say, we had a wetter winter, then the ground would be wet. That means it's harder to heat the air. So I would put it earlier than normal this year, possibly by about a few weeks, if not a month earlier than normal.
So almost coming up.
Yeah.
Before we started doing this live stream, I was talking to you about how Valentine's Day was pretty wet and couldn't do much, but I want to have you remind us what our outlook for February was. Was it wetter than normal, warmer than normal?
Yeah, so, and I can pull that up right now. Let me go and move this mouse here if it'll cooperate. The outlook for February was for near normal rainfall, and I think we're going to end up being drier than normal for rainfall. The thing about February is it's already our driest month of the year.
Yeah.
So it's even near normal would not be a lot of rain, but we're looking even drier than that. And then from a temperature perspective, the February outlook was warmer than normal. And it seems like a slam dunk that this February is going to go down as a warmer than normal February. There could sometimes be, let's say there's a storm at the end of February, and I'm not saying there will be. We still have some time to iron out specifics of that. You could still easily get an inch of rain, inch and a half of rain in one storm, and then February might go down as a wetter than normal month. And that's part of the challenge with some of these months that are so dry like this is one storm could be enough to make what has been such a dry month so far overall. It could end it up the month being wet. So that is less of a slam dunk, but still pretty likely that we're going to wrap up the month of February drier than normal. We're not seeing any storms of much significance for the rest of the month. Even our longer range computer models are not hinting at anything before the end of the month. But the temperature prediction of it being warmer than normal seems like a absolute sure thing.
Well, if this is warmer than normal, I don't want anything else because it was a little chilly at the beginning of February. The nights continue to be cool, so I'm good with it.
Yeah, you know, the beginning of February, you mentioned that was the last time Austin had a freeze. We've been freezeless since the first day of February, and we typically get several freezes in the month of February, and we've only had one. And it's not out of the question that February 1st freeze is actually our last freeze of the season. We're not saying it is. Sometimes you can get some in March, but it's very possible that February 1st freeze is the last one. Not for all of our area. We're actually thinking that some areas might see a patchy freeze early next week, but at least for Austin, we're not seeing temperatures that cold just yet.
Well, it's perfect.
Yeah, if you like that sort of thing. Of course, many people do love the cold mornings and the cold days because we know what's ahead for us in the spring and summer. So enjoy the chillier air while we've got it right.
Yeah. So average days in the 90 degrees.
Yeah. So we thought we would pivot from the number of the times that we get our first 90s to how many days in the 90s we get each year.
This is surprising. I feel like it would be more than half the year.
No, it's 123 days out of a year with 365 days. It's about a third of the year is spent at 90 or hotter. Now, this does include some triple-digit days as well, of which we average 29 of those. But 123 days of the year on average are at 90 or hotter. So we're getting to that time of the year where we spend so much time in that sort of heat. But more recently, we've had more days than that above 90 or hotter, I should say.
2022 seemed to be like a really hot year.
In many ways, it was a hot year. Yes, 2022, 164 days. That the reason it's in that shade and color is because that ties for the record number of days of the year spent at or above 90. That was only 4 years ago. Last year was no piece of cake either. I know it won't be remembered for a year with a lot of triple digits because we had a lot of 98s and 99s last year.
We had a lot of records last year, too.
Yeah, we did too, yeah. And all of that came together to mean that we were pretty close. We were only 8 days shy of the most 90s ever in a year, which is significant. Certainly 2025 is up there. I think it's in the top 5 of all years for number of 90 degree temperatures or hotter. But it still was shy of that 2022 when we had such a significant amount. And what we're finding is with our warming climate, not only are we gradually seeing earlier 90-degree days, that date of the first 90 getting earlier, we're also finding the date of the last 90-degree day getting later. And then the number of days spent at 90 or hotter is going up as well. In fact, on our blog, which we can either preview now or talk about in a little bit, I go into even more detail toward the bottom about how the average related to the number of 90s and the dates of the 90s has actually changed because we recalculate these averages every 10 years. And you can actually see it's even further down on the page there that the number of 90s has gradually been going up and the date of the first 90 has gradually been getting earlier. There's the part there. The average number of 90-degree days is increasing. It used to be about 30 years ago or so, 107 days of 90, and now we're up to 123 days in the 90s. So a noticeable increase there in the number of 90s each year. And of course, is our warming climate, which so much of that is due to human causes, not just the growth in Austin, which is a smaller percentage of the reason that we're warming, but a bigger percentage is other man-made contributions to that. So as that keeps happening, we're going to find not just more triple-digit days, which we've talked about a lot as happening here, but also more days in the 90s and then a longer 90-degree plus season here in Central Texas.
So we need to prepare because the 90-degree days are coming pretty quick.
Yeah, and if as I mentioned, history is anything to judge this year by, we can probably expect them coming earlier than normal as well. As far as the average number of 90s in each month, we can get them year-round, remember. But April into May, we start seeing a bigger uptick in 90s, 3 in an average April, 11 90s in an average May. June, we average 24 days with highs of 90 or hotter, which does include those triple digits. And then really almost every day of July.
July is the entire month.
Yeah, basically, save for a couple of days. You know, if we got a tropical system or some decent rain in here, it would knock the temperatures down. But aside from that, it's almost a guarantee to be at 90 or hotter for the vast majority of the month of July. But none of those expected here over the coming week. We've got mid-80s Thursday, and then clouds Friday knock us down. Cold front into Saturday, but some sunshine actually allows temperatures to go up before the chillier air really takes hold into Sunday and Monday. So no 90s over the next week, and I'd be surprised if we get 90s for the rest of February, but March, I'd watch out.
Okay. Well, hopefully everyone has plans to go out and get that tan. I know Tommy earlier this morning told me he's going to Florida to get his tan.
Oh, there you go. Well, you can stay here and get it too.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be warm. It doesn't need to be warm for you to get the tan. It's about the power of the sun, less so the temperature. So you can have a cold day and still get a sunburn, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready for this fun in the sun weather.
There you go.
So we can go out, hang out at Zilker, play some volleyball in the sun.
All the things.
And have some fun.
There you go. Well, in our blog on KXAN.com under the weather and traffic tab, we've got all the information from today's blog, as well as those extra in-depth elements there toward the bottom about the changes in the averages, the dates of the 90s, as well as the number of 90s each year. That's on KXAN.com under the weather and traffic tab. Of course, you can watch all these conversations like this on KXAN Plus if you're not already watching us there. Pretty cool if you're sitting at home on your couch and you're like, I want to dive into some of that KXAN content. And
or even watch the Olympics.
Yeah, well, not on KXAN Plus, but yes.
KXAN,
Yeah. But anyway, KXAN Plus, you could download for your smart TV, Apple TV, Fire Stick, Roku, Samsung TV. And then you've got the app living on your TV or on the box attached to your TV. And then you can just open up KXAN Plus and check out these sorts of conversations, other topics, the latest newscasts and things. And we also have a special section there that during the afternoons and early evenings, as long as there's no breaking news going on, we've got a loop of the weather forecast and updates there for weather. And what we'll be doing much more as we head into severe weather season, which begins March 1st, is we'll be able to provide extra storm coverage on KXAN Plus during those active stormy patterns that when we're not necessarily on TV. So it's going to be a good thing to download ahead of time.
Yes, definitely get that downloaded. And also we have our KXAN weather app, brand new weather app. Yeah. I guess it's not that new anymore.
I know, at what point do we stop saying brand new?
Well, renovated.
Recently refreshed, we'll call it that.
And you can download that for free anywhere you get apps on your smartphone or mobile device.
There you go.
Thanks for joining me, Nick, and we'll see you next week on Nick's First Warning.
Thanks for having me.